What was the book that got you into reading?
Narnia. A masterpiece.
Green Eggs and Ham.
Where the Red Fern was the first school book I enjoyed reading. I figured out that I could read for fun, not just whatever was required for school.
The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
The Alchemist.
The Fellowship of the Ring. It was in the classroom library corner in, I want to say, 6th grade.
The Hobbit, 6-7 years old.
Redwall and Mossflower by Brian Little Fantasy Books.
The Outsiders.
The Hunger Games got me back into reading in my early 20s.
Nancy Drew. The first one was out of boredom, then I got hooked.
I've been reading longer than I can remember, and couldn't possibly answer this. But I can pinpoint the first book to really shape the kind of stories I like and like to tell. Bridge to Terabithia.
Singularity by William Slater. Little House in the Big Woods.
The Goblet of Fire movie had just come out and I had to know what came next.
The Geronimo Stilton books in 1st-2nd grade. I had the entire series. Love reading books since then.
My mom was a voracious reader. She read something like a 300-page book or two a week. I struggled a little bit getting into reading, so she picked up a set of those Choose Your Own Adventures books and that clicked for me. Lifelong reader from that point on. Thanks Mom. The Outsiders, S.E. Hinton.
The Ramona books by Beverly Cleary.
Matilda, 3rd grade. Then Nancy Drew. When I realized I needed mystery and horror. When I was 9 I spent a month in bed due to bronchitis. My mother threw me a copy of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn and I became a lifelong reader by the end of the month. Good choice. My earliest literary treasures: Magic Tree House, Boxcar Children, and the cherished memories of my mom reading to me.
Dr. Dolittle.
Probably anything by Richard Scarry.
American Chillers.
Twilight. I wasn't a big reader growing up, but I read Twilight in 2008 when I was 10 because my sister loved it and I wanted to be just like her. I ended up devouring the entire series and made it my entire personality for, like, 2 years. When I finally got sick of it, I began picking up other books and would spend hours upon hours reading each day. It's been that way ever since. Gathering Blue by Lois Lowry in 7th grade. Before that I hated reading books. The Ranger's Apprentice series by John Flanagan.
I can't remember the name. Was about a boy going back in time and living with Stone Age folks, learning how to make flour, bake, shape stones, and so was really cool.
Let's Go Shopping. I love Choose Your Own Adventure books. Not only were the stories interesting, you could collect the entire series.
I think Percy Jackson.
Naked by David Sedaris.
Miss Osborne the Mop by Mary Q. Steele, writing at Wilson Gage, 1964.
I don't remember the first, but after Jurassic Park film came out, I devoured Crichton's books.
Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist.
Never was and still am not a big reader, but one series that I could read all day when I was young was the Michael Vey series, A Familiar Dragon.
War Sluts.
The Tamara Pierce books. It was a race to check them out from the library every week.
Some random novelization of a Doctor Who story. There were dozens of these books published in the 1970s and I discovered them the first time my parents took us to the library. I just devoured loads of relatively short books and built my way up to weightier stuff. It was only in my late 20s that I stopped going to the library weekly. I still read but not as voraciously, and only books I buy these days.
I See Sam.
Trapped in Batwing Hall. Goosebumps Choose Your Own was a long time ago.
I've been into books since I learned how to read. I was so jealous of my siblings knowing how, and just the idea of unlocking this ability got me into reading. So, flashcards I guess. I can't remember the first book I read. I would have been in kindergarten.
The Hardy Boys.
The Dark is Rising. Lifelong fave. No other fantasy lit has drawn me in quite like that, and for being written in the late 60s it has aged remarkably well.
When I was in middle school I loved this book series called The Lemonade War. It was definitely more of an easy read for middle school level, but it was just fun to read. But less of a kid's book. In high school my junior year English class read this book called Haunting of Hill House. I wasn't much of a horror genre type of guy, but it had to be the best book I've ever read. The book movie Wonder was also one of my favorites.
Harry Potter aged 11.
Stargirl by Jerry Spinelli and Holes by Louis Sacker.
Narnia, as I struggled with writing and reading books as a neurodivergent kid in elementary school. Opened my love for fantasy books and got me into Percy Jackson, Kane Chronicles, and Goosebumps. Mainly it's supernatural fantasy horror.
The Lord of the Rings. First time I read it I was 6.
Harry Potter.
Silent Patient, Alex Michaelides.
My Teacher is an Alien by Bruce Coville.
Goosebumps.